We are all thrilled to be in the audience tonight of an exceptional human being who has not only participated in movements, but is in the process of redefining what it means to be a person of conviction, regardless of your position of privilege or of your profession. Michael Bennett has been making heads turn for over a decade on high school, college, and now professional football fields. He is an exceptional athlete who represents the apex of relentless determination and tireless effort to become not only good enough to play pro, but so good he cannot be ignored. And in the humble fashion that characterizes him, Michael questions the fascination with his extraordinary feats as simply, quote, chasing down the player with the ball. For those who have not borne witness to him as an athlete, Michael has forced your heads to turn as well. To watch him stand by his principles at great personal expense and risk. To look twice, to hear the man who quote unquote has it all, to speak truth to power. Like when he called out his fellow athletes for not standing up with the Black Lives Matter movement. Or when he applauded women athletes for taking greater risks than his counterparts. Or when he responded to his fellow teammate who highlighted black-on-black violence in a moment of opportunity. And Michael explained in that moment, I think the Black Lives thing is more about social injustice, not so much the injustice of people killing within the community, it's about the social injustice of the people that are supposed to protect them and build the community. Not just black people, because you see a lot of people within the Black Lives Matter organization that are white, that are Spanish, they are all dealing with the same type of hardships that are going on around the world. He turned heads again when he donated all of his endorsement and jersey sale profits in the upcoming year to STEM programs for minority students and funding inner city garden projects, putting his money where his mouth is, literally. Earlier this year, he turned everyone's heads around the globe when he touched on the question of Palestine and the Israel-Palestinian conflict, an issue that is met with such disciplining punishment that even academics who dedicate their lives to studying it bite their tongues and shield themselves whenever they can. But in a legacy that he has already established, Michael applied the same principles that have guided him about humanity, our interconnectedness, social justice, intersectionality, and internationalism when he pulled out of an Israeli government-sponsored trip targeting NFL players. In response to a letter generated by movement leaders in this room, you are in very good company, y'all, asking that Michael not go because his participation would be especially blistering given his remarkable commitment. Not only did Michael pull out, he wrote a letter to the world that has already made history and will surely stand as a milestone in the story of Black Palestinian solidarity.
I asked for a tone.
In it, he writes that he does not want to be used by anyone and cites one of his personal heroes, Muhammad Ali, who has always been in support of the Palestinian people and a voice for the voiceless that he also aspires to be. And he concludes beautifully in that letter, I know that this will anger some people and inspire others, but please know I did this not for you, but to be in accord with my own conscience. Like 1968 Olympian John Carlos always says, quote, there is no partial commitment to justice. You are either in or you're out. Well, I'm in.
So, first question, if we would, please. That's just so you know how this is going to go. Nora and I are going to sort of go back and forth asking questions of Michael, and we're going to make sure that there's ample time for folks in the audience to ask questions as well. And then after that, We drink. Okay. So
A lot. I don't drink, but you can
I do. Drink. Your beverage of choice. Oh, so clearly people here, Michael, are familiar with your work, the stances you've taken, but the first question before we talk about anything else I wanted to ask you is why? It would be so easy for you to do nothing in the social justice realm. It would be easy just to play football, you'll love your family, get a check, but clearly that has not been enough for you. So why? Why have you chosen to take these stands?
Growing up, I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood. I had a lot of different people in my neighborhood too. I'm used to, my bad. But no, it's just one of those things where I always said when I got in a position to be able to continuously talk the way we talk in the locker room, when I got to have a platform to be able to talk about it, I would. And I think it's important for kids, color, my color or any other color, and kids to see people in powerful positions, not to forget where they come from. I think because the most important thing for me is to inspire kids to want to make change, not so much about sports, because to me sports is just like a small part of me, a small part of the world. It's like this whole thing about how do we connect together and make change. And so when I got to the position, I didn't want to get it and be like, all of a sudden, it's all about Nike, it's all about McDonald's, it's all about those things. For me, it's all about the kids and the people. So I spend most of my time giving back to the community as much as I can on me and my wife and my kids. And I want my kids to do the same thing when they get in a position and whatever they're doing.
Now, there's some very specific issues that you've chosen to be outspoken upon and act upon in recent months and years, and we want to sort of touch on them one by one and why these issues have touched your heart. So
let's start with the one that you've been up front on the most, which caught our eyes first, and that's Black Lives Matter. What compelled you to join that movement and to stand up so righteously on its behalf?
I think I'm a black man. It's not like something I can't go around and be like, oh, what's going on in America doesn't affect me, because even though I might be in the NFL, I might live in a different neighborhood, I still have family members that are black people, black women, black children, black men, and they're growing up in this world. And for me to go and not say anything or just be like, oh, it doesn't bother me, I think it would be unjust, and I have to speak up. It's just something that they were doing, the movements. You see Ferguson, you see all these things that's going on in this time period. And as an athlete or just a human being, you can't sit back and be like, I can't be a part of this. You have to be a part of it. You have to be a part of seeing the people that look like you get an opportunity and get their justice. So many, you go back to Emmett Till and still no justice. And now it's like it's getting to the point where it's just boiling over, and the kids that are just out and they want to participate in it. So I couldn't sit back and not be a part of it or just not say anything. I just felt like that was I would be cowardly.
It's a remarkable moment in sports precisely because we can say that it's not just Michael Bennett in terms of people who are using their hyper-exalted, brought to you by Nike platform to say something about the world. And I wanted to ask you if maybe you could speak about what, not just you, but what other players as well, people you see, people you're talking to, what ways do you see athletes coming together to speak out for social change, and what more do you think can be done?
I think athletes are really different. You look through the time period of athletes have always been held to a high standard on the platform. And usually they're the ones that's out crusading to make change. And for a small part of time after Muhammad Ali and all the other people, there was just a quiet moment. It was quiet for a little bit. And now with technology and all the things that's going on, you can see all the injustice that's going around the whole world. So athletes have this platform to be able to speak, and I think guys and women are coming together and being like, it's time for us to do something more than just be people that market things to kids. It's time for us to go out and show people what we're really about. We're a part of these communities, whether it's human rights, Black Lives Matter, the LGBT community, whatever it is, it's somebody in some type of sport that's affected by something that's going on. And for us, it's time for us to go back to our roots of speaking up, standing on the front line, walking the talk, and not just being, not just sitting back and being like, well, it doesn't affect me. It's one of those times where we have to be the leader, because at the end of the day, people are watching us. But this is the only time in this generation where all of us can be in this room, and collectively we can have 60 million people on our phone or following us, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So we have the world's ears, and we can speak to them. So to be able to use that and show kids and show people what we're about and what we're doing is super important.
And I know Nora's also now about to ask about Palestinian issue, but do you see an opportunity to bring these athletes, all these athletes are saying these amazing things and taking these remarkable stands on social media in their communities. Do you see an opportunity perhaps to bring these athletes together, maybe in a common organization?
I think that's something that's something people are working on right now. You know, you can't speak on it too much, but it's definitely something people are working on right now, to be able to join together and be able to share that message and let people know that there's somebody backing them. Because a lot of times when people make, social stance and when you're a sports athlete, you don't know who else in the locker room is following you. You got this organization who, their bottom line is to make money, you know what I'm saying? And you got these fans and what they want to do is watch a sport. And then you have this athlete who wants to be a part of the community. They're not sure if they have any backing. So to be able to bring people together and show that there's people around them that have support, I think that's super important. So I think once that's made, guys will feel more, they'll want to speak more. Women will want to speak more because they'll know that they have backing and they'll have people that can show them the ropes and people that can help them.
Okay, so let's just start with the juicy stuff real quick, because inquiring minds want to know. There were 11 people slated from the NFL to go on an Israel government-sponsored trip. So they weren't trying to just see the Holy Land. This was an invitation from the government. Because of you, 5 other players pulled out, and eventually only 5 out of the 11 traveled. So thank you very much. First of all. A growing movement of people-led boycott, divestment, and sanctions, and we appreciate the folks who act with integrity along with us in the struggle for liberation. But what we're interested in is, why did you agree to go up first? And then, what helped you change your mind?
I think at the time all I heard was a free trip to Israel. And I was like, oh wow, that sounds pretty good. And I didn't really do any background research on it, so I can honestly say that was one of my problems for not going and doing all the research about what was happening. But then once it started getting closer and things started coming, I'm like, whoa, okay, this is not what I signed up for. It's like, I thought it was just a trip for us to go see certain things. I didn't know it was a government-sponsored trip until later on. And then once I found out, I was talking to some of my friends, obviously, Jesse, John Carlos, Dave, all these people around the United States, and it was, telling me, and I was reading more about it. So I had to pull out. It was one of those things where it just wasn't the right thing for me. I mean, like I said, I know a lot of people, there's some people that were mad at me because I did go, there's some people that were happy that I didn't go, there's some people, it just had mixed emotions. And for me, it made me, what I want to do is the most important thing. I think in life, you have to do what you want to do, and when that happened, I just stayed back. And once I did all the research and I started learning more about Black Lives Matter and the solidarity between the Palestinian movement and both movements and the apartheid and all these different things, I can honestly say as a man, I actually cried, in my room. My wife was like, why are you so emotional? And I told her, I was like, I just didn't know. I didn't know how strong people felt or what was really going on to a certain amount of people. And then for me, me being an athlete, you don't really see a man cry like that. But it was emotional for me because it's one of those things where, I've seen so many different things, and now to read, and then once I started I was in my room for like 2 days just reading and just getting information, and it just changed my perspective on it. And I think it bothered some people that I didn't go, but for me, I couldn't go. It's one of those things where I seen people, I seen the kids, I seen the women, I seen the men, I seen the wall, I seen all this stuff that people weren't being able to do. I seen the schools, I just seen so much, and I was just like, man, this just reminds me of being in the civil rights movement and what's going on at this time, and it just, for me, I just couldn't go at that moment.
So I think what a lot of folks don't know, and they probably take for granted, and which I have been telling folks about you who ask me, is that you are such a voracious reader. Your appetite is insatiable for reading. This man is constantly asking for book titles. He's reading more than I assign my students.
I got a lot of time.
And so in that reading and in the course of what you were touching on, and you were making some parallels to the civil rights movement, but there's also a resurgence with the Black Palestinian solidarity, which has a deep, deep history in the United States. First, as an anti-colonial solidarity between the Black Panthers and the ANC and SWAPO and others in the PLO, and now more recently as a resurgence in a different kind of movement against dehumanization. So how do you feel like that informs the decision that you made and the work that you continue to do?
I think that plays a big part of it, because I definitely believe that everybody's connected in a certain way. I think you just can't say there's injustice here, it's injustice around the whole world. You see people connecting. I think the connection between being, oppressed is important. I think if you just think that just yourself and the people are being oppressed is not, that's the only thing that's important, you can't make change. And if you talk to, all the time I read Angela Davis and I talk to her, and that's one of the main things that she always talks about is the connection between people and the connection between how to make change together. I think it's important. If you look at the people in Palestine, when they were talking to people doing the Black Lives Matter about the tear gas and how people work together about different things that they're doing, I think that's super important, because without people touching on what they're going through, you can't get any information to get past that hurdle. And I think that's what made me like, well, I can't do this shit. Can I say shit? Is that possible? Sometimes I'm on Disney Channel, I can't say shit. So. But yeah, I was like, well, I can't do this shit if this is if everybody that I inspire to be like, or everybody that's close to me, that's a mentor, everybody that I talk to, they're affected by this thing, and my decision can change a lot of people's perspective. That I need to make sure that when I make a decision that it's the one that I feel that's the right one.
Now, you got a lot of
Kids.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I was gonna say, you got a lot of social media love when you made the decision. A lot of people I know went after you too, but I also saw literally thousands of people just say thank you to you. And I would just be curious to know, like, is that something that you, as a well-known athlete, is that something you saw? Is that something that matters when you get that kind of support online?
To be honest, I didn't really know that what my letter was going to do. I really did. I was in the moment. I was what I wanted to say, what I wanted the world to hear. I didn't know that it was going to affect people the way that it affected. And I think a lot of times when you make decisions like that, you don't really know the outcome. It's like you don't plan to be like, well, 2 million people are going to say this. But I think now that I've done that, it's crazy, because when I do stuff, people don't even talk about sports with me no more. And I think that's just what it is. People, it's like, you transcend sports when you start going into the world socially and being a part of what people are going through. Because if people only know you for what you do on the field, then obviously they're only going to talk to you about sports. You know what I'm saying? So, but if people know what you stand by, what you believe in, what are your morals, people tend to have better conversations with you. So I think now it's just one of those things where people have been super affected. And I mean, I walk through the streets and people are talking about the letter, and people are talking about the movement and the things that I'm talking about. It just makes me feel really special. Like I said, I didn't plan on this happening, and it happened,
I wasn't surprised that you got a lot of love, because I feel like I know how deep the movement is and how close this is to people's hearts. But I got to be honest with you, I was surprised that so many of those NFL players who were going to be on that trip read the letter and were just like, whoa, Mikey is right. Is that something that surprised you?
I think a lot of guys, they were like, wow, they didn't want to. Once the letter came out, they were like, man, I don't know what to do. I think a lot of guys they're not just up on what's going on in the world, because if you're an athlete, you're kind of stuck in this box. You're kind of stuck in this world of sports. And I mean, if you don't know, most of our days start at 6 a.m. and we don't get done at 6 p.m. And then by the time we get home, it's like play with the kids, eat dinner, and then do it all over again. So a lot of times people don't have time to be caught up in the world and what's going on. So I think when it came out, they had a chance to go back and read, and it kind of changed their mind a lot. And I think that's really what was cool about it. One guy, he had a baby, so he didn't go. I must say that. That's the reason why he said he didn't go. But other than that,
Still a victory.
Yeah, still a victory. Victory is a victory. I thought that was really cool.
So you're talking about Miss Angela Davis and how she's pretty much a North Star for a lot of us,
Yeah.
but I think for you as well.
Yeah.
But she's not the only one for you. And recently, during the Super Bowl, or during Black History Month, you were highlighting a lot of Black leaders and writers and activists and intellectuals that inspire you. So can you tell us a little bit more about them?
You know, for me, it was one of those things where the Super Bowl was so big, and it was Black History Month. It's like the Super Bowl happens in Black History Month, and nobody talks about Black History Month. And I teach Black History Month in my kids' school every year, so I think it's important that kids of all color, it's actually fun because a lot of times when I walk in the classroom, I teach about segregation, I teach about history, I teach about inventions of black people in the United States history. And kids are always surprised when I tell them about all the things that we created, and it changes their whole perspective. But during the Super Bowl, I wanted to highlight that. I wanted people to understand, what we've done in America, what we contribute to what people see around the world, from refrigerators to stoplights to everything that you see. A lot of things that people see that they don't realize that African Americans created, and I think that was super important to me. And I wanted to make sure that every night I read a story to my kids from one African American inventor, one African American historian, and something that they can remember. Because I think it's important that not only because I've learned when dealing with the schools that my kids go to, it's not that the kids. Not that they don't want to learn it, it's just that they're not taught. So when you teach them, they have so much respect, because I think it's important for people to respect other people's culture, because once you start to get to know people's culture, you start to understand them, and it eases your wall down, because you understand that person's different, but they're different is cool. And I think that's the kind of thing I want to instill in the kids around me, and I instill in my kids personally. So that's why I think it's important that the kids and people around the United States take true to what happened in America with African American history. So that's what I do.
So, to shift a little bit, the other statement that you made this spring, and it was so powerful, is people might not even know this, that Michael Bennett came out with a very strong statement in support of the women's strike in late March. And he elaborated beautifully on being a father of 3 daughters and speaking out for women's rights and equal pay. But I did want to ask you why that issue and speaking out against sexism is so close to your heart.
I think as a man, for a long time I can honestly say it's like I didn't pay attention to what women were going through. It's like, I paid attention to it. I could just say that it was like, now that I have daughters, it's like so important to me, like to really see like how women are really treated, and like my eyes are so open now, because it's like now with my daughters I'm just seeing how things really are. And I think it was important to me to speak up on it, because like I said, women are the future. Like I said before in the letters, like women are the main people who always stepped up first in every single conflict that's been on in American history. The men might get the credit for it, but it's always been women that stepped up and were like, no, you're here. And for me, it was just like I had to speak up on it and talk about it, because like I said, my daughters are the ones who, and her friends and the women are going to be the ones who change the world in the future. They're such a big part of it. I think it's so important that they have a true seat at the table, whether it's pay, education, the same rights. That's why I donated so much money to STEM programs for women, because I wanted them to have the opportunity to be not just a wife, or I wanted them to be able to be the creators. All these things, this technology that are going on around the world, why can't more women get the opportunity to be a part of it, and why can't more women get the chances to do it? So, and if I'm in a position to be able to create scholarships or create opportunities for women of color and just women in period, I think it was just my place to be able to do that.
Well, I want to ask a follow-up question about this that's also not here, but something I've been thinking about, and we talked about as well. But you show up. You show up as a husband. You show up as a father. You show up through and through in a way that you don't even mean to. You're just living your life. But unfortunately, you're actually correcting the villainization and the demonization of Black fatherhood in the United States. This idea that Black fathers have been absent, and a complete elision of how the Black family has been destroyed in this country.
That's a whole nother story.
So can you just touch on that though? Can you touch on that and your personal experience and how people respond to you?
I think for me, being a father, I think it's about example. So I try to set a great example for my daughters. I think for me, I just want, when my daughters get married, I want them to marry a man just like me. I want them to say, I want that man to be. It's a man. But I just want them to marry somebody like me. So, I try to be a great father and a great husband, because I feel like if I don't show my kids what a great father is, or show what a great husband is, then I feel like I'm not doing my job. I think that's my most important job, and I never forget that. On top of everything, you ask my friend Sean, anybody that knows me, I always put my family first because I know that being a father and a husband is the most important job that I have, and I always try to keep that in perspective no matter what I do. So I always coach my daughter's basketball team. I always teach at my kids' school. I'm involved, and I think that's what I try to show young parents, because I think in this generation it's a lot of young parents, and you know everything about a relationship, whether it's being a father or a husband, it's about evolving, and it's an evolution every day. You're changing and things are changing. So I just try to keep up with that and try to make sure that I'm always there.
So you have 3 daughters. So the question about like if you had a son,
Yeah.
like NFL, you know, whatnot. Not that women won't someday play in the NFL.
I don't think you want to play in the NFL.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would hope.
It hurts.
Yeah. So it reminds me of this quote from Marilyn Monroe, who said, "I'm not for equality with men because I think we should aim higher."
Yeah.
But what is the experience like, though, of being this football player in this very masculine atmosphere, this very macho atmosphere, and going about raising 3 daughters?
I think it's one of those things where people want to put me in a box, like, oh, you don't have a daughter, I mean, you don't have a son, so I mean, then your legacy is over. But I actually think it's different. I think now that my son, if I had a son, he would always have to be an athlete, and it would be always trying to look up at my shoes, conquer all the things that I conquer. And I think with my daughters, it's like whole new life, whole new things that I've never thought about doing. They want to be scientists. They want to be all types of things that I never thought about doing. And now it's cool because now when their son is playing football, I'll be like, you know, my daughter cured malaria. You know that, right? So it's like, it's one of those things where I get the opportunity to watch 3 individuals do 3 different things and grow in 3 different ways, and I enjoy it. And I think a lot of times people, you know, they question my manhood because you're like, oh, you don't have a son. I'm just like, does that really matter? What about all the things that I do? But at the end of the day, it's about how can I have these 3 ladies, you know, do 3 different things. And I just love it. It's such a challenge because it'd be so easy for me just to push them out there and be like, go play ball. But now I have to be involved, and it's just like I think I was built for it. My wife always said, you have so much patience to be able to father 3 daughters, and I think I do, because it's a lot of waiting around sometimes, but it's cool.
So I actually want to take the opportunity to ask Dave a question, because as you all know, Dave has been enmeshed, has created in very many ways and pioneered and highlighted this idea of sports and politics, which he hasn't paid.
Thank you, Dave.
Yes, I'm also bringing out that Dave is documenting and influencing. And so, what's your impression of the state of affairs? This is an exceptional time about, you know, athletic involvement and ways that are pushing back, you know, and stretching out those boundaries.
Thank you, Nura. I will say this. I think we are at a historical pivot moment on the question of the political athlete, their effect on society, and how people in the streets can also affect what happens on the field. And I think we are at this pivotal moment first and foremost, before we say anything about individual athletes, because of the Black Lives Matter movement, because of the movements against Trump, because of the movements in the streets for actual democracy in this country, the movement against the prison industrial complex, the women's strike, all of these things, LGBT movement, these movements have changed this country in a very fundamental way, which is partly why I think the backlash at 1600 is so fierce, because they see what they're up against. And it is real, and it is not going anywhere. And I think it's had a profound effect of what's happened on the field of play. And then those athletes, in turn, are having a ricochet effect, amplifying the movement, giving people more confidence, like you described, and creating, I think, a culture of resistance in this country that we haven't seen for a generation. And to me, one of the main pivot points has been the words and deeds of Michael Bennett, and of course it was also Colin Kaepernick choosing to take a stand by taking a knee. And it's a great transition to ask about Kaepernick, but I will say that the pivot point of Kaepernick is like, I have all the respect in the world for people like, you know, LeBron James, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and the way they spoke about the need for peace in the community and the need to build bridges. But what Colin Kaepernick did was different than that, because he wasn't calling for peace, he was calling for justice. And that is a very different kind of political argument. And that's to me, when we speak about like the tradition of Muhammad Ali, what's so important that it not get watered down. Because Muhammad Ali didn't say, gee, we gotta get everybody who loves the war in Vietnam and everybody who hates the war in Vietnam, and we gotta all get into a room together.
Have a conversation.
And have a conversation. About how to make sure we can all just get along while the war in Vietnam still goes on. That's not what he was about. He was about taking a side. And that's what Colin Kaepernick, and that's what Michael Bennett, and that's what I would argue the women of USA Hockey who just won their strike. That's what they've done. They've chosen to take a side and fight for a position, and I think that just changes the political calculus dramatically. And that gets to my question. First and foremost, about Colin Kaepernick, the most basic question is, right now, he's a man without a team. Do you think he's being politically blackballed?
I've said it, I mean, I'm not scared. I've been saying this for like the last couple of months. And of course, I feel like he's being blackballed, obviously, because his position, I mean, anybody will tell you that a lot of people, the teams, maybe the players agree that there's a place for politics in sports, but I don't believe that the teams or the organization or even the fans believe that there's a place for politics in sports. I think people want people just to do your job and then shut up. And then score a touchdown, dunk a basketball, hit a home run, and call it a day with buy your jersey, and that's it. They don't really want you to, to speak on things because, like I said, an athlete has such a powerful platform. People are listening, people are paying attention. Athletes sell everything in the United States, whether it's cars, clothes, liquor, gum, toothpaste, whatever it is. Underwear, whatever it is, athletes are selling it. So to have such a big platform, and for Kaepernick to take that knee, it changed a lot of people's mind. It ruffled a lot of people's feathers. It ruffled a lot of locker rooms. I can't say that it didn't ruffle our locker room. Everybody that I talked to around the whole NFL, it ruffled their locker room in some type of way. Guys were on the fence because at the end of the day, the NFL is predominantly black, and then there's this side of it where guys don't really get to talk about the issues that are really going on in the world, because once you start talking about it, they move on really fast. Like, okay, this is not the channel for that. This is ESPN. We don't want to talk about that. So, when he took that knee, it just opened up this conversation, and everybody wanted to hear it. Everybody wanted to listen. Everybody wanted to see what athletes would do. And I thought the next step from the talking was being able to implement different things. And I think Kaepernick, that's what he did. He did what every athlete talked about. They talked about doing something, but nobody was really out there trying to implement programs, trying to go into the community. Like I've always said, it has to be organically. It has to be organic. You have to go, people have to see you. You have to be where people can touch you. And that's where I think the next generation of athletes have to do differently. We can't just sit on the panel and just be like, this can't be the only thing that I'm doing. This can't be the only thing that people see me doing. They have to see me in the community, in the detention center, building gardens, see me working with women, see me teaching, see me doing things, see me being a great father, see me as who I say I am, and see me doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think that's what Kaepernick did a good job of. I mean, I talk to him all the time. I'm just like, wow, man, you like on a whole nother level. Like, you do it. You do exactly what you say you're gonna do, and you follow through. And you're a man of the people. And to love the people, you have to be able to die for the people. And I don't mean dying physically, but dying spiritually, like changing your whole mindset of who you used to be and what you thought was important. Now, when your eyes are open, it just changes you. You can't. Once the worst thing you can do is be awake. And once you awake, it's hard to go back to sleep when you're in this world. But I think that's the challenge for players, because once you're awake and you start doing things, then people are holding you to this standard. And the worst thing to do is to be held to a standard that you can't keep up with. Because to be in this, what we're doing and the things that we're doing in the community, you have to really live it. You have to love people. You have to be able to commit your time. Your time is, everybody knows that time is super important. And to commit your time to different issues, commit your time to working with people, commit your time to be able to speak, to do things for free. And everybody is not willing to do things for free. I'm doing this for free. Like, it's not like I came up here and was like, Nora, I need $50,000 to come talk. You know what I mean? No, I didn't mention it. But no, it's just one of those things. I flew 15 hours to be here, to be able to speak about different things. That's the truth.
No joke. This would not have happened without Michael's extreme generosity. People don't go go speak anywhere.
No,
Even academics don't go speak anywhere if they don't get paid. And Michael, his time is so precious. We're about to tell you about some other stuff he's working on. And he came out here on his own. He just wanted to be here. He just wanted to work.
But one thing about Colin Kaepernick as well is he said 9 months ago, he was asked this very question, like what happens if you take this knee, you're speaking about institutionalized racism, you're doing this Know Your Rights campaign, which by the way people should Google if you're not familiar with Colin's work on that, and you're giving money to things like really funding a clinic at Standing Rock for activists, like you're doing all of this work. Aren't you worried that this will keep you from getting a job next year? And his answer was, if I can't find work just because I'm trying to do these good deeds, that only proves how important it was for me to take this stand in the first place.
I think when this situation, they want to, they don't want everybody to do this, you know what I'm saying? If every player was to stand up and just always spoke about was things, then it would change the world, but also none of the games would be played. So I think that's part of the reason why, I feel like he doesn't have a job, because it's one of the things that, he spoke up about a lot of different things. You can't say his talent, because if you look at the quarterbacks that's been signed, it's nowhere close to his talent. So, I mean, that's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to speak about. Everybody wants to go around it, but and to me, that's my truth. And I think that's a lot of people's truth around America.
Yeah. We're, of course, talking about Josh McCown. No, I'm sorry, that's for NFL people. I'm a Jets fan, it's hard for me.
You can't be a fan if you're a Jets fan.
Yeah, I know. It's something you're born with. It gets in the DNA. And the one Kaepernick follow-up, this is the question I've been wanting to ask you for a long while, and because this is like both my...
Just text me.
Yeah, I should have just texted you. But then I thought, why not ask in front of a couple hundred people? There's this... I think about people in history like Craig Hodges of the Bulls and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and these are players who were political, they got drummed out of their leagues, and it did have, you ask any NBA player from that time, it had a profound chilling effect on other players, where people were just like, whoa, no more talking. If Colin cannot find a team, do you think it will have a chilling effect on players, or do you think there's maybe a possibility that it could inspire people?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think there will be a side of people that probably will be scared. I think a lot of people will be scared because they might not have a job, and if they speak up, their jersey won't get bought anymore. If they speak up, then they won't be invited to certain things, and if they speak up, then everything's going to change for them. They won't probably get that table in the restaurant that they used to get, and get that free chocolate cake that I love so much. But then there's this side of people that are being inspired. I think there's a lot of, like I told Kaepernick, if it's not the professional athletes that you're inspiring, it's definitely the children. And if the children are the people that are going to be inspired, and they're going to be the future of the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball, then the people in front of us won't have a choice. They won't have a choice because these kids are growing up in a generation where the athletes are speaking up. So they're going to be born like this. They're going to be bred into making change. They're going to be socially aware. So it's not even the athletes or professionals that we're trying to inspire.
We have wheat, we have traditional and gluten-free.
Traditional.
And then sauce, we have marinara, basil pesto, marinara.
Then it won't really matter because he's going to transcend sports because he's going to be the one like John Carlos. I mean, records are meant to be broken. Nobody thought that Oscar Robertson's record would be broken. Here comes Russell Westbrook. But nobody's broken John Carlos' record standing on that fist. It's a transcendent moment. Sports, you transcend certain things, and I think Kaepernick has done that.
Yeah, that's one thing that John Carlos, actually he said it on this stage. It's the first event we did with his memoir, right here. And he said, people ask me if I have regrets. So the people who have regrets are the ones who were there at those Olympics in '68 and chose to do nothing.
Yeah.
I was actually reading a recent article about Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, just like researching more and more about the legacy of which you're continuing and building and the path that you're trailblazing. And he says the same thing. Yeah. Not a single day goes by where he has a regret because he lived up to his integrity. So I want to ask you, Michael, about something you said in your letter, in your Dear World letter. You want to see Palestine and Israel for yourself. You want to see what this looks like and what it looks like on the ground. Are you thinking about that? Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're planning on going on a trip, and when I do, it's gonna be pretty cool because it'll be one of those things that it'll be documented, and I'll be able to share like how I feel and how through my eyes and what I experience. I think it's super important that when I go visit, that I experience the culture. I do normal things. I think sometimes when you visit places, you're not really a part of the culture because you're doing all the tourist stuff. So you never get to visit people, you never get to visit schools. So to be able to be a part of somebody's family and be a part of how people are truly living is important to me. And I think that's why I'm excited about going on my trip, because that's the kind of things that I get to do. And those are the kind of things I love getting to do when I go on vacation. I love to get lost in the city.
Well, we hope to get you lost in a lot of places like Haifa and Ramallah and Jerusalem. Okay, y'all think this man is super busy, but you all didn't know that he was actually working on a book. And I'll make this the last question, because I just want you to at least share the title of your book.
I'm saving it. I can't talk to you. No, I can't share it. I gotta save it. I'm working on it.
No ideas about the book, about what you plan on sharing with people?
I plan on doing my way of sharing my vision of American history through humor and finding a way to tell the truth through my way of doing it. I think it's gonna have some humor in it. It's gonna be the truth about what I see happening in America. So it's gonna be like an American history story through my eyes, and it's gonna be pretty fun.
All right. Good.
Yeah, we love the title of the book so much.
Can I just say it?
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. It's called How to Make White People Uncomfortable at Dinner.
It's a 7-course meal, right?
Seven-course meal. That's great. So, well, we said that we wanted to make sure there was time if folks here had some questions as well. We know that this very packed room has to be cleared out by 9 o'clock, which means not the last question being asked at 9 o'clock.
Dang.
So we wanted to be able to open it up. If folks have questions, they can put their hands up. Usually Busboys has someone who goes around with a mic, but otherwise I can just point at people if people are willing to project. And so I've got bam, 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 bam. Is it okay if I do that?
Yeah, whatever you want to do is your day.
Okay, thank you. I'll start right over here and we'll move our way across. I see you in the back.
Why your microphone ain't got no cord on it?
I bring it from home.
Oh, okay, I'm jealous.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Mariam Al-Hassani. I'm a student at the George Washington University. And my question is, what is your response to people who say, oh, I don't want to get politically involved in things, and this is something that doesn't affect me, and I don't think that I should get involved in that type of situation, these types of conversations?
I think, like I said, I think it's one of those things where people feel like they're going to have some kind of backlash. So a lot of people aren't willing to deal with backlash, especially in a generation where you're so accessible. You're accessible through your technology. People can comment on your things. So you got to be built a certain way to handle the backlash. And I think, if you're in a position to be able to speak about things, you got to speak about them. And you got to talk about things that are going on in the world, because people are listening, kids are watching, families, everybody's watching to hear what you got to say about it. Nobody wants to hear about just you shooting that jump shot. They want to hear about, what happened in Baltimore. They want to hear what's your thought on I Can't Breathe. They want to hear about all these things that you are a part of that you don't want to speak about. So I think it's really challenging, and for me, like I said, I think it's kind of cowardly that if we just sit back on top of our high horse and not speak about things that are going on.
Oh, Andy, got someone who's, okay. We'll go. The gentleman.
He got a jacket on, he get to go first. I'm just joking. I'm joking, man. The jacket did it, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Mike, I guess I'll start with a football question. What do you think about the current talk about Richard Sherman and trading him? Do you think that involves some of the kind of his political activism? And then I also wanted to ask you about militarism. The NFL is so closely aligned with the military. As a player and as a group of players, do you find it hard to push back against some of the things that take place? For example, the camouflage uniforms, the flyovers, things of that nature.
Great question. I don't know about Richard Sherman, but I hope he doesn't get traded. And if I was a GM, I wouldn't trade him. But on military question, I think there's a lot of players. I know there's a lot of people have so many different opinions about the military, but in the sports, there's a lot of people's parents that are part of the military. There's so many guys. Yeah. Now, my dad was in the Navy and my uncle was in the Army, so I have so many different people that's in the military, and so many guys have different people that's in the military that they're close to. So I think it's one of those lines where people just want to, support the people that have been in the military in their family, and I think they should have the right to do that, just like anybody else has the right to speak about any other issues. And I think the NFL just sees a parallel line between two people and two types of things that people are doing in the military and the NFL, and some people are part of it that they just want to bring them together.
Before the next question, and then after this gentleman over there at that table, and then I saw the woman in the back was the first person with her hand up, so you'll then that.
Yeah, I can see her hand.
And behind me too. Thank you. But before that, I just want to say this person's very modest, but I'm sorry to do this, but the person who just asked that question's Damian Thomas, who's the curator of the sports section of the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Yeah, that's why you got that jacket on. That explains a lot.
But he's a special guy, and he's created a very special space, so just wanted to acknowledge it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jason Johnson, and this is a sports and a politics question. One, appreciate your work. Congratulations on the new contract. I'm a big actual Seahawks fan, I know specific.
Oh, yeah.
But my question is, what was it like when the team negotiated last year, instead of taking a knee, that you guys would all come out locked arm in arm? Some people thought that was good, some people criticized it. What was that conversation like within the locker room? What kind of concerns were people having when that happened?
I think it was a very emotional conversation. If I can tell you that there wasn't the tears and people having so many people from different backgrounds, and there were so many, we should do this and we should do that, and it was just a lot of arguing and people trying to figure out where's their stance on this. There's some people, there's white players on our team that's never ever seen racism before, and they grew up somewhere in the middle of Kansas, so they've never seen a lot of African American stuff, so they don't know about the journey, or they don't know about the struggle, and they just read about it. Some of them didn't even know the history. Some things that we talked about, people were like, what, that happened? So it's one of those things where it was a hard conversation to have, and we're lucky to be on a team with like Pete Carroll to be able to have that conversation, because most teams didn't really have a conversation. It was like, hey, we're not doing that shit, this is not what we're about. Our coach and our organization, everybody was like, well, let's have this conversation, because at the end of the day, race has a lot to do with a lot of things that go on, whether it's sports, whether it's politics, wherever it is, race has a lot to do with it. And so we had that conversation, and it was a very emotional conversation. And by the time we weren't going to do anything, and then finally we just like, hey, let's just do something. And we all agreed that taking a knee, we thought that Kaepernick taking a knee was super important, but we also thought that if we do something, then we should definitely do it as a team and show our unity as different people from different backgrounds, and show that people are doing different things in their community service. And we thought the after effect, like what happens after we take a knee? Because there's a lot of people that took knees and a lot of people that held their fist up, but we didn't see them building schools. We didn't see them doing any work. And for us, we got a lot of backlash because people were like, "Oh, you locked arms, that's it." But they didn't really want to hear our story. They just kind of closed their ears after they didn't hear what they saw us lock arms. It's like, that's not enough. But if you look at what our team was doing, and our team has donated millions and millions of dollars, not from the organization, but the players. They've donated thousands of hours of time for doing stuff and building. We got people building schools in Haiti. We got people doing stuff in, Ferguson. We got people doing all stuff around the whole United States in our community, working in detention centers with kids, like speaking, doing all kinds of stuff. So we thought that was the most important thing, and I think that's what we talked about most was the after effect.
Making me wonder why I'm a Jets fan. Although, can you stand up so everybody can see you? Can I ask you to do that? It's just too cool.
Like a little cap in there.
Yeah, a little
Just like you, Cap. Maybe you over there.
So I was just asking. So how did you react to the teammates of, your teammates and people around the league? How did you react to them not standing up for, taking a knee and?
I thought there was different ways to show their unity, and I think a lot of players, I know there was a lot of pressure to everybody to take a knee, and I thought sometimes the pressure of the world can overshadow the work that people are trying to do. So for me personally, I didn't want to ostracize anybody and be like, well, you didn't take a knee, so you don't believe in shit. You know, I'm sorry, I forgot you were a kid. Disney, like Disney, thank Disney. So we didn't want to ostracize people for not taking it, because when we had like a conversation amongst a certain group of players that we had, maybe 20 players talking on the phone, it became an argument because it was like, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, and then finally people came together and was like, look, just express yourself the way that you want to express yourself, and agree that we all are trying to make change, and you don't have to take a knee for me to believe that you're out there in the community. You can do exactly what you feel like is important, and I thought that was the most important thing that came out of that conversation. That was a really great question.
Dear Shanawi, I'm actually a middle school teacher, and I appreciate what you talked about as an athlete giving back to the community, and I see a lot of my students who they have their sights on the NBA or the NFL. How can we instill in these kids, not only once they get there, because with great power comes great responsibility, the fact that it's important for them as a role to give back to the community, and how do we start that at such a young age as well?
I think it starts with the parents. I think the parents have to invest in the kids to believe that there's more than their life than just sports. I think being an athlete growing up in Texas was very hard, because when you grow up in Texas playing sports, you're kept in this lane, like, don't step out. It's an intense thing I can't even explain to you. You got people that's 10 years old and people are buying their parents' houses so they can play football for a little league team. Like, you guys aren't even getting paid, but that's how serious it is. So for us, it's also about the professional athletes going back in and investing in the community, not just in sports. I think I talked to a lot of athletes about just not going back doing football camps. Let's go back and do things with technology. Let's go back and bring people from different genres of life, whether it's a lawyer, a doctor, teachers, anything, politician, somebody that kids can see. A lot of times kids only see athletes, so that's what they be. They want to be at, because it's like, here's this spotlight on LeBron James. This is the most important thing in the world. You know, more people follow Beyonce than they do Michelle Obama. That's just the world we live in. Everybody wants to be an entertainer or get fast money, so we just have to teach kids that there's more important things in life than just money. There's more important things that you can get back than just being than just doing that.
I just want to see you in the back here wanted to ask the question because we can't see him.
Yeah, I can see her.
We have somebody here first, and then we'll go there. Somebody here.
Good. I don't want to cause any trouble, Nora. We good? Okay. Hey, Michael, shout out to your brother Martellus Bennett, who's one of the players who boycotted the White House shirt. Or will boycott the White House shirt. I wanted to ask, partially football, have y'all ever dreamed of playing on the same NFL team together? Do you think you can make that happen? And secondly, will he be joining you when you go to Palestine?
I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be joining me. Hopefully he will, but I know he has a lot of things that he's doing with technology in the community, building art centers and doing so much for kids and stuff. So I don't know, but we've always dreamed about playing on the same NFL team. We actually slept in the same bed till we were like 17. I don't want to tell anybody that, but I shared a bed. I slept this way, he slept that way. It was cool. His feet, I always had to smell his feet. That's what I want to say. But now we always dream about playing on the same team, but it's one of those things where it's kind of cool that we don't play on the same team, because we get to experience a whole different, we get to grow as men, because we always did everything together, college roommates, high school roommates, everything together. So it was good that we could go out and venture the world and see different things and be a part of different, create our own lane in life. And I thought that was important for us to do. And now we just connect outside of football. I think, we always dream about playing sports, but the things that we do together outside of football is those are moments that I cherish most.
We'll do the three up here, and then I see there's a whole group right over here. So we're going to take care of this front.
We have to see it here, and then we'll go there.
Okay.
Just go ahead first, in the back.
Yes.
All right. First, thank you again for being here. But I just want to sort of expand on something that you were speaking about the necessity to see the connection between all of these different kinds of oppression, sexism, racism, but also the geographical divide, when Ferguson to Palestine. at the same time, there are only so many hours in a day and so many days in a week. But you also recognize the extent to which, a threat, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So, my question for you is, as an activist and as a public figure, how do you strike that balance, these dueling necessities of wanting to recognize the connection between all these forms of systemic oppression, but at the same time, having to focus your energies just as a practical matter?
I don't know if there's an answer for that. I really don't know if there's, I think it's a great question because I don't really think there's a right answer for it because there's so many things that's going on in the world and you just try to be a part of as many as you can. I think it's hard to balance all those things like you said, so you just try to pick the right ones that you can really help in and lend your voice to, or you can find some type of way of helping. Trust me, it's super hard because every day you get so many different inquiries about can you come over here, can you speak here, and like I said, you have to find great balance between your family and remember that you also got a family that you have to take care of too, and just find a way to do it. And I think, I'm still growing, so I don't know how to give you the right answer for that because like I said, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, oh, I got the answer and I know everything. I don't. I'm growing as a human being, I'm growing as a man, and I'm just going with the flow as I see things, as I do it, as I grow, as I read, as I challenge what's going on, as I challenge oppression, as I challenge politics, as I challenge sexism. It's one of those things it's just one of those things that I just keep growing. Right? That's the only thing I can tell you. I don't think there's a right answer for it.
Yeah.
You got a Seahawks jersey on there?
I'm not going to ask a Seahawks question. I'm Native American, and I just wanted to say thank you for your support for Standing Rock.
I'm actually doing a project in South Dakota right now, where I campus and stuff for the kids out there.
Thank you.
The reservations will be fun.
Thank you. My question is, we've seen Standing Rock transition now to this divest from Wells Fargo and the other banks, and we're trying to keep momentum out there. And you've been talking about Ferguson, and just this last week, Ferguson re-elected its white Republican mayor. So how do you keep hope alive when you work hard, you try to fix things, but it comes back to something like that where it's not even a close result. I think he won by 15 points. So how do you keep things moving forward when sometimes it feels like you're hitting head against the wall?
I think for me personally, I just think it's whoa, this light is super bright. I feel like Moses, turn it down. I think for me personally, I think it's I really can't see. So light guy. Oh, there it is right there, dim the lights. Tatum Pendergrass right there, thank you. There you go, please right there. I think it's very challenging when you see things politically that you feel like you've been fighting for and you feel like you've been let down, but also I think that's the challenge. I think that's the challenge of there's a system that you gotta fight, but at the end of the day it's about how can we rebuild our own communities? How can we invest in our own communities? How can we do that? I think that's the real challenge that I feel like that's personally is like, you can't wait, oh yes. Damn Trump. Just turn my microphone off. No, that's the challenge is like, how do we invest in our own communities? I think that's the thing that I'm realizing just now is like if I wait for the government to do something, if I wait for the government to create an after school program, if I wait for the government to do this and that, then it's never gonna happen. We're still gonna be waiting for that challenge. And I think it's all these people that saw that. They saw that, you can't wait around. They were the ones that created their own thing. Those are the people that we look at and we say, man, like how do they go and they change and they didn't wait for the government, they didn't wait for anybody to do it for them, they just did it for themselves. And I think that's what we have to do is start figuring out how can we do it for ourselves.
Piggybacking on what the brother just asked you about and actually your response, I am always challenged as to how to get my older African American brothers and sisters involved in the movement. And you being someone that seems very grassroots and very real, how do you get your elders involved? Because there is this disconnect between the younger African American community and the older African American community. And it's very much like, you know, I don't want to use these terms, but the field slave and the house slave, you know, like just kind of keeps, well, in some ways, I mean, I'm sorry, it is kind of like, you know, we don't need to be in the streets making all this trouble. And Angela Davis being an elder herself, when you think about the intersectionality, really all of these issues touch African American life, but getting our elders to see that and see that that's what we're standing up for. How do you do that in your work? And how do you do that even within your family on a very personal level?
I think it definitely has to do with your community. I'm from a small town in Louisiana. It's super small, so it's a lot easier to see the injustice. You can walk around and you see it so easy that I think sometimes when you live in a big city, it's a little harder to see it because you got so many things going on. There might be somebody getting killed by a cop over here, but 2 streets down there's an NBA game going on. So it's like people don't really get a chance to pay attention to it. So it's like I don't really know how you exactly do you challenge them. I just find myself just challenging my family. I just want to take no for an answer. I'm relentless about it. I give them books. I take them to the History Museum. I take them to do this stuff. I think that's what we got to do. The challenge is within ourselves not to give up. I mean, it's easy to be like, you know what, they don't want to listen, so I'm going to give up. But if everybody does, if we always do that, nothing will get done. And that's the hardest challenge too, because I can go out and speak it to 1,000 people or 5,000 people and change their mind. But it's harder to do with your family because it's like they see you for who you used to be. They don't see you for what you're doing and what you're trying to do. Like, you don't know what's going on, girl. You know, it's like, so it's like you just have to challenge them to keep going and take them to different things. And that's the only challenge I can tell you to do. That's what I keep doing. I keep just giving my kids books. I keep giving my wife more books. She gives me more books. I give my brother some, and it just becomes a way of doing things.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that before I pass the mic back, that the person who asked that last question is Katia Stick. She's the station manager at WPFW, Pacifica Radio, and just wanted to give, you've got love for Pacifica. Is there someone behind me, or are we going to the many folks up there? Oh, I'm sorry. You really look like John Carlos.
No, I can't see up here.
Hi, my name is Ashley Dura Thomas, and I am female, obviously, but I really follow and love football, which makes me a unicorn amongst my friends. And one of the things is I'm in a football group has come up because of, Kaepernick and, not being signed, and then just different, female-centric, bad things that have happened with the NFL, so sometimes it's very hard to be a female NFL supporter. Some of my friends are debating whether this season they are going to quote-unquote boycott and not renew their season, tickets, stuff like that. But then the other side, people are like, but then that'll affect the players who are not getting paid, who are like you, who are doing advocacy and funding like that. I just wanted to know your opinion on that. Like, what do you think about that? Because a lot of folks are just fed up, and so they're like, we need to hit them with their pockets. But I'm very sensitive. That's like, well, then you won't get paid, and get money to advocacy.
I mean, if you tell me you're going to stop me getting paid, I think don't do it. No, I'm just joking. But I think I can see the challenges. I think if you look at a lot of different things that have happened in the NFL, I see both sides. If I see there's been players that's been abusive to women, there's domestic abuse, I can see how women don't want to support the NFL. But then there's these players that are doing so much for women and doing so much for their kids and being great fathers. So it's definitely that side of it. I see you just keep believing in that there will be a change. I mean, like Sam Cooke's change gonna come eventually. So you just gotta be believing that we're gonna be the man that we're supposed to be. Keep believing. It's gonna take people like you that keep challenging us to be better. And it takes more women to say those things, because a lot of times we don't hear the women talking about what they expect from the players. The more women are talking about it, the more women are upset. Then players have to, address those issues. You can't hide behind the shield anymore, because once Ray Rice happened, there's things that have been happening for years, and then this one thing, finally everybody started to listen. Like, there is a problem. There's too many aggressive men with women. Men need to take a stand, and then so we had to listen. So I just challenge women just to keep doing what you're doing, challenging us to be better men, and challenging us, and we have to respond. We have to respond to you, because, like you said, you're the consumer. The consumer controls everything, and you have all the power. So the more you challenge us, the more the NFL has to listen. Yeah, I know your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna run past him when you play.
Okay.
Tell him I said that though.
So I'm currently a intern at the NFLPA, and so as a players union, have they backed you on some of the things that you're trying to do? And then also, can you give me some examples on how they can help you in the future?
I think as a union, the union has a different job. I think the union's most important job is to, find ways for players to get their injury settlements and do all that kind of stuff. I don't expect them to back us completely on social issues because it's not their job. I expect the players to back me because it's the players who control what truly happens or what people see, how people, what we do in the community. I think it's the players that need to back each other. We talk about this all the time. As players, we got to stand together in solidarity and follow. Like, we have to be outraged if more of us have to speak up about Kaepernick not having a job. You know what I'm saying? More of us have to speak up about those things because if we don't, we're not backing each other. And so I respect the NFL to back us, and I respect the players associated to back us. I think the players within ourselves need to back each other.
My name is Destiny Parker, and okay. So I just wanted, you might have already answered it, some others have already touched on it, but can you speak on maybe a particular moment where you were silenced, speaking out on social justice issues? How do you keep yourself moving over these roadblocks?
I think it starts off as a youngin', or you in high school, or you in college, and you controlled by this system because the system controls if you're going to get a scholarship, or coaches are going to see you. So those are the times that you are truly silenced. But now it's one of those things where they can't really. It's on you because it's like, what do you expect? When you talk about things like when LeBron James talks about things, Nike had to back him because he's LeBron James, and it's like players got to realize that they're the product. Without us, nothing happens. So as long as we keep standing up, we won't be silenced. And I think a lot of guys are realizing that. People buy the name on the back of their jersey. They don't buy the team, they buy the name on the back of the jersey. So guys are starting to realize that. People are starting to wake up and realize that they're the product, and we can't be silenced no more because we control everything that's happening. We control how many jersey sales, how many people come to the game, how many yards are scored in the game, how many touchdowns are scored. So it's on us to make that change, and we can't be silenced if we don't want to be silenced.
Hi, everyone. I'm a student at Howard University. One of the things I do understand is that a lot of professional athletes are ahead amongst all of us when it comes to doing community work. I'm talking about NFL cares, NBA cares. And I understand although Hammer and Dale and carrying groceries don't do anything for people that live in oppressed communities, but as a relative of like 5 or 6 professional athletes, how can I get those relatives of mine that I grew up with since we was kids to do more work in the community? You may already touched on this, but really I struggle with getting those in my community, and from my community who are playing in the NFL, who probably played against you, to really do more work in our community and the groups that we grew up in.
Like I said, I think you just keep challenging them. I think you don't fall short of it. I think it's a big challenge. I think that's one of the biggest challenges you gotta face because at the end of the day, like I said, your family members, they might have 5 million people following them, and if they start doing things in the community, they're definitely going to change the community. And I think that's all you can do is challenging them and keep showing them and keep speaking about it, keep preaching about, look, man, this is going on. You need to make a change. And like I said, the NFL, they're going to do the minimum. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to do just the minimum. It takes us to go out and find the real issues, like what is truly going on. I mean, when I go to detention centers and I see 10-year-old kids in jail, or shit, I even said that I cried again because I never seen. I'm thinking like, man, I got kids and I got a 10-year-old daughter. And this is a young girl in jail, and like she's stuck here she's stuck in the system, and it takes. Guys just have to visit certain things. I think you just got to take them and show them what's really going on. Like I said, we're in a box. A lot of guys are in a box. They do this certain type of thing. They're stuck in a certain way. They're supposed to be like this, so they follow that line. Unless people around them show them what's going on, show them how they can help, show them how they can be a part of it. I mean, that's the only way they can see it.
And before the next, I would also just say we hinted at this before, and we're not going to speak about it too much, but that also speaks to the importance of there being an organization of social justice-minded athletes. So you can say to those relatives, like, you don't have to have all the answers, but you can just say, have you heard about Let's say it's called Players United. Have you heard about Players United? You know, this is a place you can go and a resource. And it also speaks to what you asked as well, to the sister in the red here, because it's hard. No one can do everything. But if you're in an organization, you can be connected with people who are doing everything through your collective work and draw strength from them and support from them. So maybe you can't do everything, but you can be connected to everything. But that only happens through organization.
In your opinion, and from the research you've been doing in Palestine, how do you think we as Palestinian activists can bring the stories of Black Lives Matter or Black activists and their lived experiences to Palestine and to the local communities in Palestine?
I think we just keep going, building on what we're doing right now, educating each other on what's going on, and keep having solidarity. I think once we keep visiting and keep talking about the different things, and we join hands, and we actually do organic work, we actually on the ground, I think that's how we continue to grow our union. I think our union is super important because, like I said, we're two people from different parts of the world, but have both faced crazy atrocities and both face crazy oppression. And how do we build that together? How do we keep doing that? And I think the only way to do that is to keep educating people on it and keep working together.
I just want to also build on something that Michael was touching about being the product and the power of consumer-driven activism as well. First of all, for real, y'all need to get a jersey with the number 72 on it. One, to show mad love for Michael, but anyway, all of those endorsements are being donated. So we know that when we're supporting Michael, we're also building a platform, so he's never out there by himself. None of these players are out there by themselves. If we actually believe in them and don't wait for them to do things for us, if we're actually interconnected. And then just also, what you did was boycott. When you didn't go on the trip, was boycott. What we're asking right now is investment. And so what else can we think of where we can actually boycott products together? Maybe this is to draw on Angela Davis's work. What are products that we can boycott together that both fuel the Black radical movement for liberation and the Palestinian movement for liberation?
That's a good question. I mean, we should just not buy nothing, man. Shut this whole shit down, man. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know which products that we should just not endorse right now, but I think that's the conversation that we gotta have. That's the first step, is how can we organize? Like you said, organization is the most important thing. You can't do this on your own, and being able to talk about those kind of things and figure out a way how to best use our supplies, how to best use our people is super important.
Maybe start with Pepsi.
I don't drink. But to be honest though, you know, athletes, when you talk about that kind of thing, I think that's one thing that I deal with personally, is that as an athlete, I feel like you shouldn't endorse things that you don't do. Like I don't eat McDonald's, so I would never endorse McDonald's, and I try not to endorse things that I know that kids are watching me. But if a kid sees me drinking soda, I'm not saying that soda's bad or it's bad. It is bad. It's horrible for me. But to me to go play in a basketball game and be like, or football, and be like, this is what made me play good, it's a lie. It's manipulating you. It's manipulating you to eat the wrong things. I think as an athlete, we should definitely pay attention to the things that we're endorsing. Because if we don't, our kids are going to still be they're going to build more fast food in our neighborhood, they're going to build more liquor stores, they're going to build more things in our neighborhoods if we keep supporting the things and showing kids that's what we do.
So just on time, because we want to clear out, but we also want to give Michael time to meet folks who are here to meet him. Can we just do 2 more questions or 3 at the same time? We'll do 1 question here, and then 3 in the front. Bassem, William, and Leila.
You okay?
Oh, can we do them?
We'll do a round robin.
Let's just do them all at the same time.
Okay.
Comment question. Really quick question. My name is Saeed. I wanted to ask you, right after you decided to go, right after you decided to go, what was your immediate backlash? Was there a time perception? How did you feel? Your teammates, others, how did they react to you take to that decision?
I think a lot of people, there's a lot of backlash because they want to make it like I had a problem with Jewish people, anti-Semitic, and I wasn't. I just said that I'm for human rights. It's not even just, you know, when the Holocaust happened, I would have been just right there saying the same thing, like, oh, this is what happened. I don't support Germany or whatever was happening at that time. It's just that, you know, there was a lot of backlash. I mean, I'm built for it, so it didn't bother me, but you can definitely see that people were super affected by it, and I think it bothered a lot of people if you look at my Twitter feed.
So next up, we just do a bunch of questions.
So, my name is Alaha. I have a question for you. Like, as a person of color, I believe you face some racial challenges, right? And do you also face a challenge because you're helping Palestinians among your own people, the people that who share the same color as you?
I don't think I've faced any challenges with that just yet. I don't know what's ahead just yet, but I'm pretty sure there'll probably be something that I have to overcome. But I mean, I'm ready for whatever comes and tries to stop me from doing my work that I want to do in the community or just around the world. I think you just have to be ready for it. I think you walk this line, you have to be ready for, losing endorsements, you have to be ready for losing some fans, and you have to be ready for that type of work. So that's just a part of life.
So let's ask maybe 3 or 4 questions and then finish up?
Yeah.
So over here is one.
So my question is, I too am a member of the Macaw Nation of Seattle, Washington State. What if, like, the Players Association, union, people that come together who are organizing them? So there's one native in professional football, however, and we're a very small population, 1.9% of public schools distributed. How do we make sure that our voice is heard within those spaces and things that we care about advocate on my state and like things like that?
Go on? Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Ahmed, and I remember your teammate, Mr. Lynch, Marshawn Lynch, went to Egypt.
Yeah.
And he made a good effort. I'm sure you have the same quality and charisma.
Yeah.
And I suggest as a pro-Palestine, Palestine, I say maybe if you can go to the West Bank particularly, and you have some, I'm sure there are a lot of healthy Palestinian youth fighting for the right that can deal with the tough tacklings that you deal in the NFL, and maybe bring up just the idea like what Marshawn Lynch, or I call it Mr. Lynch, because he is a good leader. I'm sure you're not on the list. Is there any opportunity they would go over there, particularly in Palestine, the West Bank, and provide some just intermediate game just to bring your presence there, which is having a lot of impact? Because the other side of the border, they brought Barcelona, and they have the habit, I'm not criticizing, they have the habit of bringing Maradona and all that. So maybe to keep the balance, maybe you would have the opportunity to visit Palestine over there for the intramural football. How'd that grab you?
Michael, thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it. I'm the proud father of 2 beautiful Palestinian girls. Thank you for speaking up for women and girls coming up in the world today. My question is about the struggle within. As many Michael Bennett says there are working for equality and justice, there's also a struggle within, and is there a conversation about the ownership within the NFL and the hardcore Zionism within the owners of the NFL teams and their efforts? I mean, if you look at where these trips come from, this is a lot of where the effort comes from. Joe Kraft. I mean, and I don't know if you know it's just the situation of what it is.
They don't let players sit at the owner's table, so I don't know what they talk about in there, but I know that they were talking about race this year in the owners meeting from just talking to Pete Carroll about it, and there was something that they brought up was how can they connect better to different backgrounds and different people with different colors, and that's something that they're trying to work on. They're creating some type of diversity program within each locker room to be able to have these talks and be able to bring people together and find out what's really going on in different communities.
So,
last question.
Then we're going to take the ones that were listed in the order.
Hi, thank you for being here. My name is Trinidad Laura, and you spoke a little bit about the backlash that you received from when you decided not to go on the trip to Israel. And I was wondering, what's the kind of advice you would give to someone who might be afraid of speaking out because of this backlash, and how did you deal with it?
I think it's not just the Israel thing. I think just in general, speaking out in general, there's a little bit of backlash. So you have to be ready to just speak your mind. I think if you live your whole life just stuck in the shell, not telling your whole truth, then you're not fully living, or you're not fully being who you truly are. And I think for me, I'll just tell people just to be yourself. Speak what you speak behind closed doors. If there's an opportunity for you to change somebody's mind on a certain issue, then you should definitely take that stance and talk about it. Because if everybody kept their mouth closed, then things would be the same. It takes a certain amount of people to just speak up, and I think everybody here, I mean, all you guys are doing something great in the community. They're speaking up. It's like, much as athletes get a lot of the credit for what they're doing, it's the regular people, everyday people that are speaking up. That's you people that give us hope. You're the people that inspire us, because when you see people that every day they leave their job to go talk about things that's going on in the world. They have she's a single mother or single father, and they're out doing things in the community and whatever they're doing. It's just inspiring to me. That's the challenge that I see. That's a battle within me. It's like, damn, like people that's every day they speaking up. Why can't I do that? Why can't us in this locker room make a change? Why can't we be the ones that's out there changing people's mind? And it's just inspiring to see so many people across the world. I look at the women's march and I'm just like, wow, like this is crazy. Like this many people believing in the same type of thing. It's just scary.
Okay, so that quick question. For folks who have been asking about Michael's trip, he actually said in his letter that he plans on going to Palestine. So Barcelona ain't got nothing on Michael and his delegation. So I guess that leaves the last question about Native representation and how to make it more present.
I know that there's not a lot of players in the thing. I think we have to do a job of finding a way to connect, because that's the thing that we're talking about here so much, is connecting different struggles for different people. I mean, they don't have a representation in the NFL, but if you look at a lot of the places and things that are going around, there's so many Native people that we just got to talk to and figure out how can we bridge that gap. And for me personally, my brother-in-law is Native American, so that's how I ended up doing something in South Dakota. I talked to him, and then I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. Let's do something out there. So it just takes somebody to speak up about it. It takes somebody like you to keep getting Native people to come to the Seahawks and being like, look, we want some players to come here, we want this. So it takes the people to, not only the players, but it takes the people to speak about it, and it takes the players to answer your call. And I think that's what we need. We need you guys to just come up and be like, this is what we want. And then we have to answer your call. Is that cool?
We might have some work to do on that front in this town as well.
Red, nothing.
Racist name. Okay.
I can do it. So I just want to thank you again for just being you, for standing up, for representing, for being a complete human being, for making your life very worth it and inspiring. Thank you.
I just want to thank you guys for having me. Like I said, I'm truly inspired by people every day. Like when you walk around, you see people doing work. Like when I go in the community and I'm seeing people that commit their time and they commit everything that they got to make it change, it challenges me. Like every day, my wife is like, she's like, dang, we just keep going. I'm like, we have to keep going, because there's so many people out there that's doing so much work, and I love being inspired and love being a part of movements. I love being a part of the community. I think like I told my wife and I told people before, I mean, that's my life work. I mean, to me, this is what I dedicated my life to. This is what I'm doing. It's the most important thing outside of my family that I'm doing. So I'm just happy that there's so many people out here. I love looking out to the crowd and seeing so many different colors of people. I think this is what America's about. It's about people coming together and seeing the problem with somebody else and working together to fix it. It's not just one person, one religion, one nationality, one sex. It's about everybody coming together and finding a way to do stuff. And like I said, this is just inspiring to me. So thank you guys.